Malte Scholz built AirFocus 8 years ago because he could not answer one basic question inside a product org. What should we build next and why? He turned that frustration into a product operating system, got acquired by Lucid Software in 2025, and has spent nearly a decade watching product teams struggle with the same thing: alignment and decision quality, not shipping. That part got easy. Malte, welcome to Product Org Unmasked.
Thanks for having me.
Do you want to introduce yourself too?
Yeah, I'm turning 40 this year. Big milestone for me. I'm a product builder, dad of 2 kids, husband, obviously. I just love building products. Forever, I had a fascination for productivity tools. I know it's a weird hobby, but that's me. I studied business, and then somehow landed in some like rocket internet startups around 2010 or something. And then I again somehow landed in my first job, which was a PM role in a mid-sized company here in Hamburg, software as a service. And it was a really cool company, great culture, but I would say they weren't the best at systematic modern product management. It was more like, hey, let's ask the janitor what feature we should build type of system. And I essentially saw the dark side of decision making, product management, and I became a bit obsessed with the topic of how to improve that. And I, like many other people, started in a spreadsheet, which didn't really work and which was outdated and unsynced all the time. And I then convinced a good friend of mine to just build a tiny prioritization tool with me on the weekends and in the nights. And that thing then turned into AirFocus, which then became a real company, a real startup. We raised 15 million in venture capital over the following years. We didn't really want to sell the company. We didn't have any exit plans for the foreseeable future in 2024. But, somehow we got in touch with the awesome people at Lucid, who I had talked to over the previous years from time to time, just little check-in calls. Sometimes we did some marketing partnerships. It was just a little bit of a friendship between 2 companies. Small one and a big one. And then they knocked on the door and said hey, let's talk. I want to introduce you to some more people. And they then essentially told us, hey, we're looking into this space and are you open to conversations? And we then danced around, had a longer process as always, and then decided to join forces, or rather them acquiring AirFocus. And this all happened or was concluded 1 year ago. And AirFocus is now fully integrated, part of Lucid.
Nice. I have 1,000 questions now. First, massive congrats.
Yeah.
In hindsight, that always sounds so easy, right? I had this dream, I've built my company, bam, I was successful, I didn't want to sell and I haven't had to, but I did. And now everything is even more awesome. Cool. I also love that you said you are into product because you love building products. I think that's something we do have in common. I think we all have a dream about the perfect product operating model. And you said yourself you wanted to fix a shitty process, and you've seen plenty of product organizations doing things in Excel. We read all the books, the podcasts, etc. Now you have had an idea of what's not working for you, and you've had potentially also an ideal scenario of how you want to work. How close have you been able to get to that ideal scenario in your own company?
Yeah, what I can tell you, I for sure didn't have an ideal vision and end scenario for the product we were initially building, right? We started out with a little prioritization tool, and we weren't even sure that the final audience would be product managers. We thought hey, everyone needs to prioritize, which is true, but nobody uses tooling like product people use. So I think we just learned over the years a lot. And the big thing we learned sounds a bit obvious, but it's product organizations are just inherently different all the time. And they are messy and complex, and you will never get rid of that messiness. So you essentially need a single source of record. This is a huge pain. If you constantly have to go and ask people what is the current version or status of X, it's just very frustrating and time consuming. And the other thing is that if you then think you need a tool-based single source of record, I'm deeply convinced the only way to get there is with something that is highly flexible. And this is kind of what we doubled down on over the years. It's just you need flexible software. to address this, like one team working like this, the other team working like this, then you need like all kinds of slice and dice roadmaps or portfolio views, or it's always different. And with flexibility and modular software, there's a lot of like downside, right? Like people don't know how to structure stuff. There's like more areas of freedom. We also have to address that, but the opposite simply doesn't work, right?
If I do have a shitty product operating model and I put the best tool on top of it, I will still have a shitty product operating model. So how close to your ideal scenario was your own product operating model at AirFocus?
Yeah.
And how did you get there? How connected was all the strategy with the tactics and the outcomes and the data?
Well, I think I could tell you now stories about like what we did in the little startup, but I think you cannot compare startup with a company, because at the end of the day, everything is in my head and I just do what I know I have to do. But I think you're totally right. Like if you have a shitty product operating model and mindset and maturity level, we cannot solve that. But we can solve some parts of it and also put you on a good path to get there. But we cannot, like we're not consultants, we are not Petra to come in to fix all of that. But we can share best practices, right? Like it starts with very simple stuff, right? Like instead of having a completely outdated spreadsheet for your backlog and roadmap, just have that in AirFocus and have it automatically synced with the Jira, right? Like that is already saving your time. It's giving you a single source of record on the team level at least. So start there. The next step, how about importing and centralizing your customer feedback from all these channels, right? And then linking it to your product opportunities or feature or epics, or however you call them. And that is typically a very good second step in order to be a bit more customer centric, right? Boom, step by step, you make progress. And then like you can go endlessly about like adding better processes on top of that. For example, like, hey, you have like 5 teams who maybe all work like sort of empowered and smart and whatever. But like, what about like a portfolio roadmap or an initiative roadmap that sits on top of that as parents? Or how about like thinking about a more OKR driven or goal setting driven way of doing product management by looking at metrics and key outcomes and all of that? There's never this like one right way of working, but we essentially AirFocus is a toolbox for large organizations to do all these things. And we are always happy to help.
And I agree. It still sounds like magic, like buy a tool, whatever tool, and then like your product organization is running smooth, even if you do it step by step. I tried that multiple times with various tools, and it always ended up with suddenly people being involved. Yeah. And then things happened like, hey, come on, we're using this fancy new tool. All you have to do is like, there is a template, take 2 minutes, fill it in, do a kickoff workshop, update the ticket, and maybe even add some data and whatever. And then suddenly still we had the product managers who preferred Notion over that tool. So they just had a one-liner in the tool and the rest in Notion because they just didn't want to update the tool. And then we had stakeholders who had access to that tool, but they didn't want to look at it. They preferred PowerPoint presentations. And so suddenly in my CPO roles, I still had 10 different versions of the roadmap. None of that changed, no matter how amazing the tool was I introduced. So it was always a people business. And you said when you started as a startup founder, it was all in my head. And I believe it's easy, but you also scaled. Like you weren't a lonely dancer through your entire AirFocus journey. You grew into a larger team and now you grew into Lucid. So how did your product operating model evolve?
I mean, we are obviously dogfooding AirFocus a lot, but so funnily, I think we have a very good understanding of our own product. So how we use AirFocus hasn't changed a lot in the years, but our product model has changed quite a lot. So for us, it's maybe if I just talk quickly about how we use AirFocus and then about the product model, but essentially we have like three layers, 3 hierarchy levels. We think about like a strategic now, next, later initiative roadmap, right? Larger initiatives. Then below that sit opportunities. It's a list of 800 problems to solve for our customers. And some of them, like they morph into these like larger initiatives. And then below that, actually, our engineering teams also use AirFocus as a Jira replacement. And that was one of the best decisions we've made. AirFocus is not here to replace Jira, but having our engineers use our own tool every day is so important because they have like this connection to the product, this intrinsic motivation to fix it all every day, make it better. So that was pretty cool.
Okay. So you were lucky because you've had a tool,
Yeah,
you started product minded anyways. There was no sales led motion. You haven't had to convince people to be more product led. You were the CEO, so you didn't ask for PowerPoint presentations anyways.
yeah,
So it was
yeah,
like greenfield and much easier because of the
yes,
product and the dog feeding.
yes. And I can hop on a discovery call with myself every day. That is the other benefit.
Wow. Do you record those? Can you share on LinkedIn? Would love to see them.
Yeah. No, it really is a big advantage that I'm like the target audience, and also another big advantage is that I'm just like very passionate about this whole topic. I think like doing something for 8, 9 years, if you're not passionate about it, is a tricky thing.
But that's funny. You say you are your best customer and you even build the product for yourself. Would your team agree? Or is that, are you often in a hippo kind of situation?
Yeah, I mean, you can say it's the startup reality that you have to break out, but I also think it's very often the enterprise reality that you have to break out of the best ways of working. Also, don't buy into these like apparent product rules that you should never have a timeline roadmap. I don't believe in that. There's always context, and based on the context, you need to pick the right tools. And sometimes it is just like, hey, we need to integrate these 5 tools in 2 months. Let's project manage the hell out of this and do it. And then you don't have you. I don't want to talk about outcomes. It's just integrating 5 tools. It's easy, binary.
Thanks for saying it out loud because I feel like we always try to convince everyone it's always about outcomes and like, no, sometimes, unfortunately, sometimes product management is project management and that's reality. Now you are part of a much larger organization. How much of that culture you established in your teams have you been able to preserve?
It's a great question. So I think one of the reasons besides our awesome product is that both companies were really similar or are really similar in terms of the culture. And we have retained almost everyone from the team, and people immediately clicked. We fly around the world all the time. So there was a big value in culture overlap. In terms of the product culture, there are a lot of ways where we're very similar, but also ways where we're very different. So AirFocus is still run as an independent product within the Lucid suite. So I don't have like crazy touch points into what they're doing with Lucid Chart, Lucid Spark, and their accelerators. I'm part of the Lucid leadership team, but I'm not into the details of what they're doing there. Lucid is actually a huge AirFocus customer now, so all their 100 product people manage their work out of Lucid Spark, AirFocus, and Jira, which is awesome to see really from the bench how they are succeeding and sometimes struggling with AirFocus as the whole world is turned upside down right now. Yeah, I had to completely also change how I lead product at AirFocus. Which so I've gone through a huge learning curve. Remember, I entered a medium-sized company as an individual product manager and then became a founder very quickly. So I have no enterprise corporate experience. So I'm learning some of that right now, and but I'm also learning about like I think I'm learning from a really good example because the Lucid is a very modern, I would say modern product organization, right? Like they rely a lot on like these things that you don't hear in Europe here a lot, right? Like trust, building trust is really important, focusing a lot on alignment, culture. I mean, some companies say it here a lot, but then it's like still like top down hippo decisions all over the place. But in Lucid, it's not like that, right? It's really like an let's do the right type of thing mindset there all the time. I haven't seen a lot of politics and like they have a big one-on-one culture, for example. I've never been like a big one fan, right? Like I was very ad hoc all the time. Now I'm having like a lot of one-on-ones, and I'm now seeing the value of them because like the whole reason why they run so many one-on-ones is to build trust, and then like the first 10 minutes of every one-on-one is not about the business. It's about like how you're feeling, where you're struggling, what's up with the kids and the vacation, right? But there's like a good level of trust, which is the base for everything then, right? If you trust people, you can give honest feedback, you can make yourself vulnerable, you can talk about the real core problems. I mean, you know all of that. Maybe your audience doesn't.
Yeah. I'm sure they don't, because I mean, one-on-ones can be painful too. When I started my journey as a leader, I hated every one-on-one. I was so nervous before every one-on-one because I felt like I need to be a great manager. I need to be prepared. I need to manage and lead the people. I need to sound smart. And like, unfortunately, I didn't always, because sometimes your people are smarter than you. I had to learn that the hard way. So I understand why avoiding one-on-ones is a good way too. But you said you went through a massive learning curve, and the one-on-one learning seems to be something that you appreciate meanwhile. What was the most painful learning for you during the past couple of months?
Yeah, I think one of the more painful learnings of being now only a product leader, right, like CPO type of person, is that I don't get to make all the decisions anymore, which is painful sometimes, but which is also a bit of a cool situation because I can now fully focus on product. Yeah. So before that, I was also doing like a lot of go-to-market and sales. I was the CEO of the companies. And now I can fully focus on product, which is the cool thing. And kind of like challenging, but also cool thing is that I now experience firsthand what is needed for a large organization to get like alignment on the roadmap, the strategy, and that this is not a one-time thing, but that is needs to happen every quarter, sometimes every month. But for someone who wants to move fast and who's very impatient by nature, like me, it sometimes feels tedious to go through these quarterly roadmap procedures. Hey, I told everyone the story of our roadmap a month ago already. Like, why do you need to know again in this other steering committee here? But I get why it's important, and this is the toll we have to pay as product leaders. This is why we are, I think, getting
Best
that's
case.
the responsibility of like.
Oh gosh, it's funny you're saying it. It's the first thing I skip in every new role, the quarterly planning, because I hate it myself. There is no reason to do quarterly planning because once you finish the meeting, the plans changed anyways again. So I'm a big fan of continuous planning, and I've seen it working multiple times. But you can't change an entire organization like Lucid overnight, right? And it's also not your position because you're CPO for AirFocus. So I feel the pain.
Well, I think you can have both. Of course, you're doing continuous planning. I mean, of course, like in AirFocus, we move stuff every day on the roadmap, but still I understand the value of on a quarterly base, like going through the exercise of looking at the product strategy and even the vision and kind of bringing in these new insights, these new competitive dynamics. So, and then like challenging the current roadmap a little bit. I think it's a good exercise. It's not valuable for me because I rarely see stuff being challenged a lot because I'm doing this for 8 years. But for the other people, it's very important and also motivating. And in this AI era, it's also like really important that you update the context window of the product organization so the humans and the AI can actually make better decisions or prepare better decisions.
Yeah, this is true. And we can talk about that later. What I hear is that in these meetings, you also create a lot of context. And if you use the context well later down the road, it will help you to potentially also automate things with AI, though. Before we go into that one, you've seen plenty of product organizations, and I'm personally a little bit tired of these, like, these are the patterns of the top 1% product managers and product organizations. If you're not doing this, you're a bad product organization. Is there such a thing like a good or a bad or the best performing product organization based on all the things you've seen?
It's a tough one. I think most product organizations, they don't have good systems, good operating models, and this is really hurting them a lot. I'm a big believer in focus and just like simple stuff like if I enter the office or start working on a Monday morning and the first 5 things I do just in the first hour is like stupid stuff. This can kill the focus and the mood for the entire week. Or like a goal needs to be to remove the tedious, unnecessary, non-thinking, non-critical thinking type of work. And if the system is like built around reporting and duplicated work and slide decks and execution work, everything breaks, right? And then also the alignment breaks, the context breaks, and you end up making opinion-based decisions all the time, and you get like politics and all these things. And I think the good companies, they understand they funnily understand there's no one right way of working. They understand things like trust and the importance of alignment and visibility. They understand that they implement some version of the 20% principles by Marty, right? Like having some level of empowerment in the teams while having strong leadership with long-term incentives and good guidance. Like I don't think I'm telling you anything new, but it's like I think the flexible mindset in pragmatism and bringing these two things, like the bottom up movement with like the top down, hey, this is where we need to go type of work. And you can get a lot with a good system. You can also get a lot out of the people, even if they're maybe not the top people. Yeah, because product management is not necessarily rocket science at all times. But yeah, if you have good analytic skills, it will help you help you a bit.
Don't tell the people. Product management is rocket science. It's mega complex. No, it's not.
Okay. Yeah.
I hear you, and I think you said something in the beginning. You said that most companies you see do not have really well-established product operating models. It's rather chaotic, and I do see the same thing. Now, my biggest fear is that these companies who haven't had a good product operating model so far, now in the age of AI, will fall behind anyways. If you had no idea of how you get things from discovery to measure, how do you want to automate things that you haven't done in a well-structured manner? So you haven't closed that gap. Now there are some companies who potentially don't have the perfect product operating model, but they do have an idea of how they get things through the door and how they deliver value to business and customers. So the gap is widening. What do you see right now?
Yeah, 100%. And it gets really dangerous when you give these not so great companies, when you now give them the execution tools and a lot of cloud access, right? They will not necessarily build better things. And then like the backlash of building a lot of bad things will lead to faster turning alignment need and more problems, and it's gonna get bad. And in a way, product management is needed more than ever. Good product management in a different way, different form, right? Like as development accelerates, product management also in some way needs to accelerate and focus. But I fundamentally agree with what you said. It's going to be interesting to see if maybe there's also an opportunity in that. If maybe like there needs to be a rethinking of the playbook, the good product management playbook, right? But ultimately, you need business-minded product leaders and product managers who are able to see kind of like the bigger context and who are able to start something and finish it. And maybe the old saying, I think by Ben Horowitz, like the product manager is the CEO of the product. Maybe it actually finally turns.
No.
Don't get me started.
No, you're saying too many things out loud that make me nuts. No, I mean, I wonder if it's the CEO, because listening to you, I agree you need to up-level your product management game. But the one thing that is missing most in most organizations is the clarity on their product operating model, but also they never had the discipline to create the context they need to feed the AI and AI agents today. If I did not record my meetings, if I did not update my strategy, if I did not connect my tools, if I only wrote one-liner in my Jira tickets, then how do I want to automate all of the stuff, right? Like if there's no context, all I do give to AI and agents is a bunch of soulless, disconnected stuff. And if I then try to ask AI to make sense of the bullshit I've created, it will eventually only create bullshit. That's my assumption. How do you prevent this?
Yeah. 1 second, just to quickly go one level higher. This is by the way, not a product management only problem. Like this whole topic of AI readiness is huge, right? Like the Lucid org, they compared to like 1 or 2 years ago, they're essentially now playing a different game. Before that, they were doing visual collaboration, and now they're in the game of AI readiness, like helping companies get ready for AI by documenting their workflows and processes and all of that. It's so fascinating, the underlying need for that. And maybe it's also like in a way like a pause button for this whole AI transformation, right? Like everyone tried a bunch of stuff right now, and people probably now will realize they're not AI ready, and they have to go back, start documenting, start establishing different types of workflows.
And even if it's not a pause button, but just a discipline button or a new habit building, even if you start small with this, like record your meetings, like, please put them into an MD file and start doing things with it.
Yes.
I think you can start small, building context, update your strategy document. Don't sit down on a Monday morning doing unnecessary stuff. Do
Yeah.
the important things and make sure that your documentation is readable by AI agents so that at least in a couple of months you can start automating your product operating model.
Yeah, exactly. I think startups are probably typically at the forefront of these things out of necessity. So startups were the first to record meetings. They're maybe not the best at documenting things, but here's my hot take. Documents were always shit in most cases. I think with AI, what we're now gonna hopefully get used to very, very, very quickly is like self-updating documents. So you finally have actually useful documents. But that also is a bit of like a chicken and egg problem, right? You need to have some good context so the AI can actually help self-update its other documents. But I think we're going to get there, and
Which no
we're
one reads.
well. I think if there would be useful documents, I would totally read them, and I would force people to read them. So at Lucid, they actually have a big culture of a reading time in meetings. So the assumption is nobody prepares for meetings, which is, we all know, true, universal law. But in order to fix that, they have like 10 minutes reading time at the beginning of meetings where everyone gets reads through the context, which is prepared by one person. So I really
I
like
like
that.
that. How did you prepare your organization to become not just AI informed, but AI ready or AI driven?
Yeah, I think we're pretty AI ready. We're doing almost all of the things that we would recommend to our customers. And we are a bit of like most of the people here are product management nerds. We would also do things that are maybe a bit over engineering. But we just like to have a clean setup. Entering into Lucid, we actually did more of that, as I outlined earlier, right? Like we really have updated strategy boards. We have forever done a really good job at looking at every single piece of feedback and linking it to the product opportunities. And we now have agents do that. So I think that we're probably more on the forefront of being ready. But it's also much simpler, right? We had like one product team a year ago. Now we have four. It's all doable.
Yeah, I wonder if it's really everything much simpler because in the end it's still a people business. People still need to update their stuff. They still need to learn all of the new tools. They still need to do suddenly things like opening your terminal and work with Cloud Code. There are so many
Mm-hmm.
things we need to learn. Even if you want to, and even if your org is ready, some people might be resistant and remain resistant, which is fine.
Yeah, which is fine, but we don't have these people. We have the nerds, the people that stay up late in the evening to learn this stuff if they don't find the time during the day.
I mean, I'm not surprised. You can eat your dog food. You are amazed by product for ages now. So obviously your team got inspired by you as their leader. That's very nice. I do have a closing question. What's something you believed 5 years ago that you've completely reversed on?
It's a good question. What have I believed 5 years ago? I think 5 years ago I could not imagine that the product trio, engineer, designer, PM, would ever be challenged because I thought it made fundamentally sense. Although I for a long time had struggles with the designer role and the overlap with the PM and the power fight sometimes, right? Like who runs discovery and what type of discovery? But I also knew like the product manager would not create the designs. Right. And designs can sometimes help, although in many cases I always told everyone like, hey, let's just do mocks. We have a design system that is enough. Let's move fast. But yeah, I think a lot of that gets challenged right now in many jobs in the life cycle. For many jobs, we essentially skip design, which leads to a whole bunch of other problems that we can talk about. But like my product manager, for example, is pulling context out of AirFocus via MCP using Claude. And then Claude is also connected to the AirFocus code base. And then he just like, together with the context, starts building real working products that are not production ready because he's a product manager. But he essentially can create these types of things in minutes. And then we play with them. And we essentially skip the entire like design phase, right? Like, so what does this mean for design? So it's going to get interesting. I think the product manager is needed more than ever. Smart, modern leaning engineers will also forever be needed, or at least for a long time. I may regret the forever in a year. But like, what happens to the designer? or at least the amount of designers we have. I'm a bit unsure.
I think engineers in podcasts talk about product managers and designers not needed anymore. PMs might talk about designers and engineers not needed anymore. Designers tell like the whole world is now design.
You know the Spider-Man GIF, where everyone pointed.
Let's see who wins. Hey, Malte, that was super interesting. I think I would love to have 2 more hours with you. Thanks for your time and for being so open today.
Okay, thanks. This was fun. All the best.
Same. See you soon.
See you soon. Bye.